Hello and welcome to the Cheeseman podcast. This is Brendan, your host of the show. Joining me to look back on that disappointing, but with green shoots all over the place. Oh, sorry. First up, we have Becky. How you doing, Becky? Sorry, I had it playing in the background there. Sorry. How you doing,
I'm
Becky?
very good. I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, just reading some of the comments coming in already. Hello, everybody in the comments. Yeah, we're not too doom and gloom. I think we'll be quite positive here. We think back to last year, even just the Villa game at home last year, it was a million times better than that, and we lost the same. So, yeah, looking forward to kind of talking about it. But yeah, there'll be some positivity. Don't worry.
Exactly. Also joining, he was there as well, is Mr. Paul Muir. How you doing, Paul?
Mate, yeah, good to see you. Good to see you, Becky. Caught with you yesterday, didn't I, back just for the game. Lovely to see you. Yeah, I agree. Watching some of it back today. I didn't get to watch all of it back today, but watching some of it back, there are some really good positive moments that we can talk about. So it's not going to be doom and gloom, and it's certainly not going to be as bad as some of the stuff that I've read today on certain Twitter forums and certain Facebook forums. So yeah, looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think we all obviously we're all disappointed. We've lost another game. There's 3 in a row, 3 games where we were winning, just couldn't hold on. So again, we're right at the beginning of the Ange era. So, and he said it from the beginning. There's going to be bumps in the roads, and we're going over a couple of bumps now. But the football's good at least. So that's that's the main thing. Hello to everyone in the comments. Do remember to give us a like. It does help the channel. So let's crack on as we normally do with that lineup. I'll admit, when I first saw the lineup, I was quite confident about the game before the game. I saw that lineup and I was like, "Oh my god, what are we doing?" It was probably the most surprising lineup I've seen for a while. Becky, your thoughts when you saw it, and no centre backs, no defensive midfielders.
No. So we'd set off from Chester about 7 o'clock because it had been 2 o'clock kickoff, and then like Paul said, met Paul and John and Franco in the Beehive, and everyone's like, "Have you seen the lineup? Have you seen the lineup?" Before then, there'd been like rumours that Dyer wasn't going to play and that it was going to be Emerson and Davis, and was like, "Oh, okay." So fair dues. Being at Wolves myself and saying the same sort of thing, that we started, didn't kill the game off, and then just got deeper and deeper. And like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, Wolves were hungrier for it, and that kind of lack of space at the back, lack of pace at the back, would be really worrying. So to see that there was going to be some sort of moving around at the back, you're like, well, you can't criticise Varane for giving it a go. He hasn't stuck with the same old thing and wanting something different. He's actually made some changes. It's a shame when Emerson has played for Brazil this week and has not played in that position. So it's because I think he only gets the players back on like Thursday, Friday when they've been international. So there's not much time to sort of prepare and things. But I've always said that I think Davis is, he's left-footed, decent squad player. But yeah, so that was that side of it. But for me, when I actually sat down and actually looked at it, it was like, oh, Kulusevski's in a different place, and Brian Hill is playing, and Lo Celso's starting, and we've got nobody on the bench. That's kind of how I saw it. But I thought it's going to be fun. It's like I just said at the top of the show, it's going to be more fun than the Villa last season, where I don't remember us having a shot on target. A lot of people that I was talking to was like, oh, this is going to be like 5-4. Villa can score, we can score. It's going to be a great game. So everybody that I spoke to was quite positive and thought, you can't criticise Varane for doing the same thing and wanting different results. He's actually made some changes, and let's see how we go.
Yeah, but you made a good point there, Becky, about Emerson Royal, because obviously I'm in Brazil, and I did watch their game against Argentina when it finally kicked off after the sad violence at the beginning. I thought he did okay. Like he's playing right back in probably the worst Brazil side there's been for a while. They've got injuries. Obviously, Neymar's out and Vinicius Junior's out, so there's very similar to us in terms of circumstances. But he's been playing well. Like he was solid. He was good in the air, because I found with him a lot of the time defensively, he does get out jumped at set pieces. But watching him against Argentina, I was like, okay, right. And so he can do a job there. Paul, what do you think? Do you think that this was sending a message saying, look, Dyer and Davies were the guys Dyer and Højbjerg are the guys that stodged it up against Wolves, so we sort of set the pace to sort of sit back once we went ahead. That's not how we want to play. So let's try and shake it up a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with both what yourself and Becky were saying there. I think Ange said it was the worst performance that they played at Wolves. So this was obviously him saying, okay, let's go for it. We're at home. You know, it's Bentancur. I watched some of the Uruguay game. I think he played quite well in that game as well. Lo Celso's first start since Nuno's last game at United. We're all really hoping that Lo Celso can refine some of that form that he had both at Villarreal and then under Jose 2020 when he played quite a lot of games as well. And I was really, really happy. I've been calling for this for a while, for Kulu to come more into the middle now that Maddison's been out for a bit. For the first when I first saw that lineup, I thought, yeah, we'll go 4-2-3. And the one with Son kind of like playing just in front, and there'll be a lot of movement in between Kulu and Son trying to find space. But the actual lineup itself, I was cautiously optimistic about, and I just think it sent a message after Wolves and what happened. I think there's a role still for Dyer in Ange Ball until he goes either in January or probably next summer on a free. But it looks like Ange is, as you say, sending a bit of a message, which is good management. You know, we've been calling for like something like this for a while, for a guy to say no and to draw clear lines and clear distinctions between, you know, players and what the manager expects. And clearly Ange is doing that, so we can't moan. But when I saw the lineup, I was cautiously optimistic, mate.
Yeah, and from kickoff, it was justified. We started so well. The chances that we had, it was glorious. It was just so frustrating that we just didn't finish it. The one that Kulusevski hit off the inside of the post. There was the Sun ones. He had 3 goals ruled out for offside through the game. Becky, what was it like in the stadium there, seeing all these chances and us only getting that one goal?
Yeah, frustrating. I think those of you who've seen my Twitter, I posted pictures of me and Jack with woolly hats on because the trains were a bit delayed and we were just absolutely freezing. Bear in mind, we've just driven from Chester, where it's supposed to be north and cold. I got down to London and it felt freezing. But I said I warmed up because I celebrated what felt like about 4 goals on Sunday. So Kulusevski one from where we were, it just looked like it has to go in. There's nowhere else where it can go. But watching it back yesterday on Match of the Day, almost as soon as Kulusevski hits it, he runs after it. It's almost like he can tell that he didn't get it right. It didn't feel right off his foot because he runs after the rebound almost as before it's even hit the post. It's all a bit odd. Yeah, it just felt like it was going in. And then the Udoji one later on, it
that
just
was earlier, I think. The dodgy one
was it before
right
that? Yeah, when he skied it over the top again, you were like, oh. But it's like we were saying, it's very much like Wolves, very much like Chelsea. You know, we have got the firepower to score, but we're just not doing it. And, you know, we're saying about making this positive, but the people who are kind of laying into Son about being offside and, you know, he played in South Korea. He's got all the travelling to do. I'm not making excuses for him, but him and Johnson did look quite tired and quite leggy in that game. But those decisions go in and Kulusevski's go in. And again, it's a completely different game. It's like the Chelsea game. I was reading something Jenna's put on BBC Sport app today that, you know, looking ahead to City, we're going to have to score more than one. Otherwise, we are going to get absolutely battered. So it's such a shame that they're not going in. These chances aren't going in because, like I said, the atmosphere was quite flat because when, I know we're kind of doing it out of order, but when kind of Villa equalise and you get into the second half, you can kind of feel the kind of nervous tension in the ground. Yeah. Whereas if we go 2-0 up very, very quickly, even if Watkins goals does stand, you know, we've got that extra goal and it kind of builds it. We're just not having much luck at the moment at all.
It's very similar to Chelsea, Paul. I thought, like, where we go a goal up and we should be more than a goal up and we're not. And like Becky says, it sort of feeds into the crowd, our intensity. We have a bit of a drop off in our pressing because we're like, oh, we still haven't got it. I think it did play on the players' minds that we hadn't put the game to bed like we should have. We should have scored at least 3 goals in that first half. I
agree. Let's bear in mind that Villa are the best in Europe at catching teams offside. Yeah, that's a stat that I read today. So. Yeah, but so you're absolutely right. What Becky and yourself said there, you know, we had a couple of really gilt-edged opportunities. The Udogie one, I just thought all you got to do is Martinez is like maybe 6-8 yards out, all he's got to do is just lift that over just gently. He brought it down quite well. It was a really nice ball through. He took it down his left foot, and he can still use his like stronger foot, his left foot, to like just dink that over Martin. I thought it was a really good opportunity. I've got a feeling that, knowing that we didn't have a lot on the bench, we had 2 keepers. Dorrington was there, Donnelly was there, Oliver Skipp, Højbjerg, obviously he came on as well, and Velez. There's not a lot of game changes there, so to speak. So I was thinking, like, we're going to try and come out the traps really, really quickly and try and get 2 or 3, and then literally kind of like press for, like, basically put ourselves in the hole up until 60, 65 minutes. And then we'll see where we're at. I got the feeling that might have been a bit of a game plan yesterday. It was like, let's really blitz. Let's really, really go for it. Press really high. Put Martinez on, because he's not that great with his feet, to be honest, with the ball in his deck. He tries to do little Cruyff turns every now and then. He's been caught a couple of times. Yeah, they're not great from playing out at the back. They do play a high line and they do break quickly. But if we've got the ball and we press them in there third, we'll get it. But the intensity, and Becky mentioned it just a couple of minutes ago there, it did drop off. It was markedly dropped off. I mean, Hill was doing 60, 70 metre like recovery runs up until, I mean, he was dead on his feet. He's not played a lot of first team football. But I mean, I just felt that, yeah, we if we could just convert 2, maybe 3 of those chances yesterday in the first 20, 25 minutes, and they were very good chances, it would have been we'd be 1 point off. Because I think that was part of the game plan yesterday, was really just try and let's get this done in the first half, and then we can look where we are with 50, 55 minutes gone, and then we could bring on a Højbjerg to kind of like see a game out kind of thing. We could bring an Ollie Skipp on. We could maybe swap Velez in for, like, you know, a tired Son or something like that if we're 3 or hopefully 4 up. But the intensity just dropped off after 65 minutes yesterday. It was really, really noticeable. Becky was right, but
the other thing as well is the injury to Bentancur, because even before that, when we weren't taking our chances, having Bentancur there, I was saying before we came on air, we watched his sort of 25 minutes or whatever it was from like behind him, and you could see how he was sort of, the choices he was making, the balls that he was making. You know, I remember, obviously, when you're in the stadium, Jack said to me he felt it was the best he'd seen Spurs play, and he's been going for 5 seasons now. It was just such lovely, quick one-touch stuff. And that, when watching it back last night, the one when Kulusevski, does he backheel it to Hill, and then Hill has that shot saved that maybe he should have squared it to Son?
wasn't it? Yeah, I think it might have been a Celso.
Yeah, and then like Kulusevski, and you'd like that kind of interplay. But watching Bentancur sort of, you know, ping it over the top, and the sort of decisions that he was making, as soon as he was injured and he was fouled for the injury, you could just, again, going back to the stadium, it just felt like, what's happening? And he tried to carry on. He got up, and you could just tell he couldn't. Someone passed it to him, and he couldn't even run to it. And again, that builds into that. Oh, you know, the game plan. We've got all these injuries. Yes, we have, and we've got suspensions, and the game plan's not quite going because we haven't scored yet. And now we've lost the last playmaker, really, Lo Celso, I suppose. But we've lost somebody that's so important and so influential. You could kind of feel that within the stadium as well. And then they equalise just before half time, and you just sort of go into half time going, I just hope Bentancur is okay. And it's just another thing that we've, like I tweeted yesterday, you know, we've got so much bad luck all at once. It's just not fair, because Cash knew what he was doing. He's the one who fouled Doherty in the Villa game 2 years ago. He knew what he was doing. And it's like, I always remember do you remember when Eriksen came back? And I still remember that video. Somebody fell on top of Eriksen, I think, didn't he? And he got up and went, "Oh, I'm so sorry." You know, and it's like, everybody knows what's happened to Bentancur. If you know anything about Spurs, you know about how important he's been to us. And I just think it's just, the refs aren't dealing with that sort of thing. We talked about before we came on air. I think the ref, to me, it's good. I don't really know any of the refs are, because to me they're all very similar. Is that at the moment they're not letting enough go. He gave 2 foul throws decisions, and that sort of, you know, finicky stuff. But the early fouls, if they don't deal with the early fouls, you then get this sort of players think that you know, that's allowed, and they can continue and it's really, really annoying. And that's the sort of, you know, in the old-fashioned kind of tackles that you do, but that in the modern game, those tackles can't be allowed. They are, you know, he's lucky that it didn't kind of catch him where it could have, you know, seriously hurt him.
Paul, you're quite Well, obviously you're physiotherapist and personal trainer, so you understand the body more than I do, and perhaps more than Becky. What was your reading of that challenge? They're saying that it's his ankle. I think Anne said it was his ankle that was the issue. It was strange. It didn't look like the ankle was impacted, but again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it was late. I've read a couple of people today saying it's unintentional. That's just utter nonsense. That's just stupid. Cash knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think it was a red. From where it was on the pitch, I think it's the ankle, because I think he's hit him so high up that the knee has tried to stabilise and he's jarred the ankle, and maybe on the landing as well, he's obviously took a bit of an impact on it as well. He obviously tried to run it off, a bit like when he walked off when he did the injury back in February in front of me at Leicester, and obviously he couldn't carry on. He was back down, and he dropped his hands to his head. I just thought, shit. And then obviously it's not the same leg that he injured at Leicester. It's the other one. But it's just, yeah, I mean, I think what's got lost a little bit as well is when you deal with people when they've been injured badly, there's a bit of an emotional, psychological kind of hangover as well. And now we've seen this, and I mean, I don't know Rodrigo Bentancur. Clearly, I don't know him, but there could be a little bit of like, I've been smashed once in my one of my first games back, and already, you know, I've had to come off. So there might be an emotional thing over there where he starts to like change his game or change his outlook slightly, which is obviously gonna hinder him. He might be able to adapt. He might be able to improvise and overcome. I hope he can do, but. That was my first thought. Is like, how can you know, if it is serious and he's out for let's say he's out for 3 or 4 weeks, you know, how he deals with that emotionally and psychologically again, and when he comes back on the field for Christmas, New Year, because we need him and he wants to play and he's a game lad and he's very, very important. I just wonder how he will feel when he goes into a challenge with another a Matty Cash type player. It's concerning for me.
Kulusevski tweeted yesterday, I read a tweet that he'd said that he said something along the lines of, you know, he's really disappointed. He has an 8-month injury and he comes back and in 2 or 3 games he gets another injury. But then Kulu said that he's got a really great family and friends support network, and he'll be fine and he'll keep going and he'll come back strong. So Kulusevski was being very positive about it, and it read like he'd spoken to him, and you know he got that kind of sense from him. But he does use the word injured in the kind of the statement.
I think it's still a bit early. I don't they wait for the swelling to go down before they scan and stuff. So
yeah,
well, it remains to be seen. What positive note from yesterday was obviously the goal scorer Giovanni Lo Celso. A bit of trivia, Becky. Who was our manager last time he started a league game for Spurs? Or do you know this one?
But didn't Paul just say it before? Was it Nuno? In the Man United game.
I completely forgot about Nuno.
But I said this to Jack. It's because it feels like Lo Celso has been here so long. I can remember watching West Ham in a Carabao Cup game, I think, and Lo Celso was playing, and he had a snood on and gloves and Under Armour, and you know, it was like late November, December, but he looked absolutely freezing. I tweeted yesterday to Lo Celso to say I thought it was definitely his best match in a Spurs shirt. He's very left-footed, but he was playing some really nice kind of balls through. He was also tracking back a bit as well, certainly towards the end of the game. But I said to Paul off air, he was absolutely shattered. Him and Hill were having like jellies or something thrown on to kind of boost them because they both looked absolutely shattered. I said after the Wolves game that Paul just said it before about game changers and a lack of game changers to bring on this game. But I just didn't think Hill and Lo Celso were it at Wolves. You know, Bentancur, yes, we were better when he came on, but not when Lo Celso and Hill did. However, at the Villa game, you know, Hill, bless him, was running up and down that wing. He made some good first-time crosses. I thought Lo Celso was excellent. He just, like a lot of them, he just got very tired and kind of ran out of steam. And he's another one who's had international matches this international break as well. But yeah, certainly, I think it's a funny one, isn't it? Because then in the next breath, you're like, oh, he wants to move on. And it's like, does he? Or does he want to cement his place here? I've always had a lot of affiliation for the left-footed players because they're just so rare. And it's interesting when Pau Torres scored, I said, "Oh, Jack, I've heard of him. We were linked with him all the time because he's left-footed. So I've heard of him." I always say it's a big worry if I know more of the names of the opposing players. That often happens with Liverpool because of my husband supporting them. But I knew they were like calling out the Villa players, like, "Oh, I know quite a lot of these. That I mean, they must be all right." So I was under no illusion that it was going to be a tricky game. But yeah, I thought Lo Celso was really good, and you want him to kick on. But equally, I tweeted earlier in the week, if he doesn't want to be here, then he can move on. That's fine. You know what I mean? I don't want players here that are always sort of looking over their shoulder at something else. But I thought he was excellent.
Yeah,
Bren, you watched the Brazil Argentina game. You just said, what was he like? I didn't watch the Argentina Brazil game. What was he like for Argentina?
The game itself was an absolute farce. It was just very, very stop-started. Argentina just disrupting the game and nicking a goal with a header, and everyone getting frustrated. Lots of handbags. A red card for Joelinton, which wasn't a red card. So it was quite hard to analyse because the play just kept stopping after like 2 minutes. But he like the Scaloni always plays him because he is. It's strange. I think we sort of may tar him a bit with the Tanguy and Ndombele brush because they both sort of joined around the same time and they both failed in their own ways so far. So, but on the flip side of that, are we giving him a bit of the Sissoko treatment in that the bar is already so low? So Becky said it was his best game in a Spurs shirt, but when has he ever had a good game?
Exactly. That's exactly it. I just don't really ever remember him starting games either.
Okay, he played quite a few games January and March 2020 under Jose. Jose. Bren, is it Jose? Is that what I say? Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jose.
thank you. And he did quite well, and then he got injured. So then at Project Restart, he then basically went out to Villarreal, and he was really, really good. I used to watch a little bit of him as well. Villarreal, I mean, he was under Emre, ironically enough, at Villarreal, and they went to a Champions League semi-final, and he was integral to playing them there. So there is a player there. I thought he was really, really good yesterday. It's the best I've seen him for, probably in a Spurs shirt, to be honest, since that period of time I was talking about in 2020. I think when Basuma comes back, I think something like Basuma, Pape Matar and Giovanni Lo Celso, I think it's got a bit of balance in it. I think, Lo Celso, me and Bren were talking about this on, me and Seb were talking about this on the pod that we recorded last night. And I was saying that I thought that Hill was doing a lot more on the left than Brennan Johnson, and Seb just said, well, the ball comes out from Lo Celso because he favours to take it out towards that side. And then I saw the heat map today, and Seb is absolutely right. I thought the triangle between Hill, Udogie, and Lo Celso was really, really good. I thought, he was picking the ball up and he was like playing it outside of the foot. He had a tight little turning circle, coming back again, trapping it with his right, coming around back onto his left, and then flicking it with some really nice angles. I was really, really impressed with him. And he was trying to find the straight ball into Kulu at times. He was trying to release Son as well. And if there wasn't a pass on, he didn't force it. And I was just really impressed with him yesterday. And there's a player there. Maddison is not going to be ready until, I believe now, middle of January, end of January, according to Ben Dinnery, which is an injury specialist on Twitter that I follow. So there's a role here for GLC if he wants it. If not, then Becky's right. Then we're better off moving him on. But if he can replicate, what he did yesterday for 80, 85, 90 minutes, and he looked frustrated. He looked a bit. He didn't look right coming off. He didn't look very happy with it showing on a big screen. He didn't seem very happy with that. But if he can replicate what he did yesterday for like at least 80 minutes, then that might go a long way to mitigating somebody like James Maddison being out. But it's whether he can do that on a consistent basis. I just don't want him to be that player if he goes at he didn't get a run of games, because we always say that about players. Oh yeah, well, there has to be a time when a player has to take his chance, and I think that was a good start yesterday. I just don't want it to be another false dawn for Giovanni Lo Celso, because we need him. By God,
it's
we need him.
interesting that you're saying that because Jack said that about Emery. Isn't it interesting that he's played well for like a previous manager? Because I said to Jack that I thought he was going to go to Villa because he was rumoured quite a lot, obviously because of the Unai Emery link, that he would move to Villa. So I hope it isn't just for his benefit, and actually he's going to raise his game when he plays more for us.
Yeah, they went in for Zaniolo, I think, instead of Lo Celso in the summer. So who was injured? I think was injured yesterday. But yeah, on to Villa, their goal, Becky. We kind of knew, bearing in mind we didn't have any centre backs or recognised centre backs, should say, that we would be vulnerable from set pieces. Certainly with a lack of height in there, and it showed with that goal. Do you think it was more really good delivery from Douglas Luiz, or that we could have done better with our clearing?
Is this the one that it was a soft free kick in the first place, or was that the Ollie Watkins one? Am I getting the two confused? Because obviously we had the disallowed one.
You're right.
Is that what it was?
You're right.
So we had the disallowed one, didn't we, from Watkins, which felt like it was almost from the kickoff, and then we had the 10-minute VAR, and then the one for the goal, which was ironically in injury time from the VARs and from Bentancur being injured. That always gets on my nerves as well. Yeah, so it was a soft kind of foul on Lo Celso. So I remember him looking over and doing the whole "I didn't do anything" kind of thing. But again, it's like going back to what I said. Because we've had a serious injury, the ref then starts blowing up for ones that probably he could play on for. It's like he's lost that kind of balance in it. Anyway, that's annoying. So they have a free kick that we probably shouldn't have had. It's a bit like going back to the Villa one when, Dyer should have oofed it into Rosed, not straight to their manager for a quick throw-in. Like you said, it reminded me very much of the Brentford goal that we scored on the first game of the season when Romero headed it in, all concussed. It's just a great kind of curling one in, and someone's going to get on the end of it. But yeah, we've got nobody of any height. I think there were a few times you said about corners, and Hill was like on the near post for corners, and Davis can jump. I always remember people like Mora. For someone who's so short, Mora could actually jump really, really high, couldn't he? But yeah, we haven't got any height. It's just annoying when I watched it back last night, and you're like, it's like for the second goal as well. There's just two of them, and they're not right in the position, and that goes back to that thing about Emerson and Davis not being in that necessarily their preferred position. So yeah, it was coming because of the Ollie Watkins one. It's just annoying. It's like I said about the luck thing. If it isn't a free kick, and then we didn't have all the injury time, it wouldn't have even taken place. But that's not for me to say we would have won 1-0. I don't think we would have won 1-0. But yeah, there was a lot of things that caused it, and Vicario, and didn't he have the one before as well? I seem to remember one. Was it when someone headed it wide just before they scored?
Yeah,
Vicario did not know anything about that one. He was properly like rooted to the floor for that one. So it was coming, annoyingly.
Am I the only one that watched this game yesterday thinking that wasn't a great cross in? Sorry, I wasn't a great free kick. Again, I had this discussion last night on the podcast, and I've watched the goal a few times. I was watching it while we were recording last night. I just think that's just into space. And if okay, we know Royale's not great in the air, and basically Pau Torres runs past him. Okay, if he just blocks him off, just puts his forearms like in front of him or something like that. I mean, just like everybody does at every corner at every game, then obviously Torres gets blocked off, and that gives Davis time to come round. I also think as well we're a little bit too far advanced, and I also think that Vicario's position his starting position is like if we're a little bit more towards our goal, then Vicario comes out and he can probably kind of claim that. But if you see his starting position, he's well in advance of the 6-yard box, and I just thought it's quite clear, because we're playing such a high line here, that the ball's going to go where it is. We could have blocked off the scorer, and also as well as Vicario's bit back on his line, it gives him a bit longer for him to realise where that header's going to go. That I'm not calling out Vicario there at all, but I think that you could look at his positioning when that ball comes in, and it's into a space. I don't think it's got a little bit of curl in it. It's got a bit of fade in it, but we could have done a lot better. Even though we've got a lot of height there, we've got to be a bit kind of more kind of streetwise. Yeah, block him off, maybe kind of grab his shirt right at the beginning or something to stop him getting on into that ball, and Davis can then come round a bit quicker and put him off a bit more. Saying that, maybe Romero would get his head to that. I don't think Mickey van der Ven would have got his head to that yesterday in defence, because I don't rate Mickey van der Ven in the air at the minute. I think he's quite poor in the air. So
but he could have, his physical presence at least could have put the player off or something. You know, he doesn't have to win it, but just to be stronger and dominate the space. Even we didn't.
I agree, and I agree that on the second goal as well. With their winner as well, there is a gap between Højbjerg and Emerson Royal and Davis, and Ollie Watkins pops into that space, gets the ball, lays it off straight away, and before anybody can react, he's in space between the players. And going to your point there, Bryn, if that was Romero, he would have been touch tight. If it was Mickey van der Ven, he would have used his pace to step onto the ball and make an interception, just like we've seen him do countless times before he got injured. He's very, very good at that. And Romero's got a lot more aggressive and tighter to people without giving away fouls. He can step in, and he can see where the ball's going to go, which I think we're obviously going to miss. But so your point saying it could be a bit more physical, I absolutely agree with. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I just don't think everybody keeps saying it was a great free kick, and then I'm not in agreement. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you said he just hit it into a space, but that's what you want. You want it sort of a bit of curl, a bit of dip, and
space doesn't score goals, Bryn.
Also, Paulo Torres as well. I have to point out that his name in Portuguese would be Dick Towers, which is a porn.
You say this every time when we were when we were linked to him. That was your running joke, wasn't it?
Yeah, and other linguistic little lessons. So if the player is Portuguese, either Portuguese or from Brazil, you pronounce the J. So Jose, Jesus, etc. If they're from a Spanish-speaking country, you don't.
I remember him saying in that, it was the documentary thing. He said people always go Jose, Jose, Jose. It's Jose. You know, when he meets someone, he first meets someone, he kind of introduces himself to Delhi and stuff. He's like, it's Jose. You must say just not Jose, Jose, Jose. I remember that.
Yeah, but it's valid point. Bit linguistics and yeah, Becky, as Paul said, the second goal. I kind of could see what was going to happen then when they got that second. It was a very well taken goal as well. I don't think we should just sit here and criticize our team. Watkins is on fire, and it was a very good finish. He took it quickly. It's like almost in his stride, a bit like Trent Alexander-Arnold did against City, where it's almost in the same movement, and they're really hard. It just didn't give you a split second to react. I said 2-1 down. What was the atmosphere like in the ground then? Were we still going for it, like with the crowd still behind the team?
Yeah, it was a little bit flatter than previous games we've had. We didn't have the drum, so that it was harder to kind of generate an atmosphere. We keep saying the atmosphere is always good when we're playing really well. And although I wouldn't say it was toxic or anything like that, it was just a little bit quieter. But Spurs kept trying to attack. You know, I on the way home, I always say to Jack, have a look at how many stats we've got, what percentage of possession do we have, yada, yada, yada. And we kept going. It reminded me very much of Liverpool. You know, like you said before, Kulusevski played really well, but is it too many passes? Is it too obvious what he's doing? He's then pulling it back to Porro, and then goes to Højbjerg, and then Højbjerg goes to pass it to Davis, and then it goes over to Johnson. And it was like Liverpool, and we were all like, just get it in the box. And then they did, and they scored the own goal. But this was just to equalise. So when you're doing it to get the winner, obviously the natural kind of trying to bring the goal into the south stand kind of thing. But it's just for an equaliser, and I just think Villa, weren't brilliant. And I've seen so much about how they almost had their full strength team, and we had so many injuries and suspensions, and Villa just about got it over the line. But there were passages of play where I thought they played better when Tielemans came on as well. Is that you just were kind of like, you just felt they were going to score, and the goal was just very, very slick, but just also very easy. And much like the Wolves goals, it was just boom, 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 boom. And that's where we were like in the first half, but we couldn't manage to finish. And yeah, then you could just see the tiredness kind of was coming in, the frustration was coming in. And, I don't agree that Johnson was dreadful. It's like you said before, Lo Celso was passing it to Hill, and when Bentancur was playing, he was passing it to Johnson. So when that goes, Højbjerg isn't doing that. So that's where that kind of deflation is. We've lost the creativity. We are, we're trying to get them to score. It's just, you just kind of I saw Tim Winston put that, we'd still be playing today and we wouldn't have scored. It just had that kind of feel to it that, like we said at the top of the show, we needed to kick on 2-3-0. Otherwise, as soon as they equalise, they're the ones that can make the substitutions, which they did. They took Cash off. And they then can keep going. And unfortunately, that's what we were doing to teams earlier in the season. So that's what we did to Liverpool. That's what we did to Sheffield United. We kicked on at United and got the second goal. It's really interesting how quickly it's changed from having those few injuries, and the makeup of the side was so solid. And we just talked then about substitutions. I remember talking earlier in the season about how he was making substitutions at like 60-65 minutes to see the game out, keep everyone fresh. And now it's games where he's got to make changes due to suspensions or injuries, or to change the game, and we haven't got that strength in depth, which is why January, if more than ever, is so important. But I do like the fact that Andrews and throwing the players under the bus. So if we'd had this last year with Conte, it would have been really negative. So he's keeping the positivity. I think that's good for the players, but it is results. And I'm going to City on Sunday. I'm slightly worried about how that will go. That Doku fellow looks quite good.
He does indeed. One thing actually, Paul, that John mentioned to me as well was this about Sonny. Sonny was almost 5 yards offside all the time. He was standing in offside. That's a tactic, I assume. What's your take on Sonny's offsides?
Basically, he's hoping that they're going to drop, and then when they drop, that's going to leave space for a Kulu or a Brian Hill or something to exploit. But yeah, I noticed that yesterday. I know John put that up on Twitter today, and got some nice replies. But yeah, it's a tactic by Sod to try and make their centre backs like Carlos and Torres to like maybe kind of drop a bit more, and there'll be more of a gap between Kamara or Douglas Luiz and Diogo Carlos and Torres, which we could try to exploit. But if you can keep pressure on the ball, then that ball coming through isn't going to come to Son. So it's worth a try when teams play that high to try and create that space. But I can see why Son was doing it, but it didn't work yesterday.
Well, Becky, who's your man of the match for Spurs? I'm assuming that whoever won it would it be a Villa player, like the official. Who won it officially? Do we know?
I don't know.
Probably a Villa player.
Maybe Martinez. It was probably Martinez, because Jack kept saying that to me. He was like, "Oh my god, he's on the end of everything." Yeah, for me it was Lo Celso, and if Bentancur had finished the game, it probably would have been Bentancur.
Paul, what about you? What was your man of the match?
I'd say Lo Celso. I thought, probably followed by someone like Pedro Porro. I don't want to go on about the podcast too much because we're on YouTube at the moment, but I think I said last night, Lo Celso in that inverted right back role is getting really, really good. He didn't have to do a lot of defending yesterday, to be honest. So that game was good for him, but he's very, very good going forward. Maybe he hasn't got the relationship sorted out yet with Brendan Johnson on that side, because obviously, to work Angeball to work, you need to have a good communication between the guy in front of you and the guy inside you, etc., etc. So that's going to come. But I think I think Pedro Porro yesterday was and
also recently he's been playing with Kulusevski on that side, hasn't he? It's only this game that they swapped over, because as soon as Hill went off, Johnson changed onto the left hand side, didn't he? So
and did nothing, unfortunately.
No.
He needs time. I get it. People call him raw. I got quite a bit of what should we say, messages on Twitter today from what I said about him yesterday on the pod and things. Give him time. He's only played a little while, but he needs to affect. I mean, he played the full 90 yesterday. He just needs to. He needs to offer more. He needs to either come and look for the ball and or offer something going beyond. I mean, it's Luca Digne he was playing against yesterday. I'm quicker than Luca Digne. It wasn't good. Maybe he's carrying an injury, as Seb said. Seb, who does the pod and does YouTube with us as well. Seb thinks he might be carrying an injury. I don't know. He moving quite well when he had to. I think he had a couple of maybe quite good runs. There's always like acres of space behind Luca Digne because Villa played at high line, and Johnson as the quickest player last season in the Premier League, and we've got Lascelles who can play that long diagonal ball as well. I got the feeling that Kulu was coming more central as well, and that straight line ball through between Torres and Digne, that was always on as well. And obviously Johnson with his pace is going to get there. We just didn't do that because he never looked like he was going to kind of trying to fake to come inside and then go beyond it. He didn't do anything like yesterday. So yeah, he needs to do more. But yeah, sorry, going back to my man of the match would probably be overall Giovanni Lo Celso.
It's interesting. So it's interesting. I like Pedro Porro, like you were saying, and I think he's a competitor as well. He's really good to be in that team. You'd want him on your team, just
when he goes and gets the ball, mate, and is down in front of the south stand on Franco's side and stuff.
Yeah, by me.
He'll by you as well, Beck. Excuse me. And he'll get the ball, and it's quite a lot of times now, like players like Gene up the crowd, but he just comes across. And you just see him, and he just looks at the crowd in that way, and he does a little kind of like lifts his hands up, and everyone's just like, "Yeah, come on." He never ever gives up. He wants to win, and he doesn't act it. This is not a role that he plays when he gets on a football field and he crosses the white line. This guy does compete, and he wants to win, and he wants to do well for the guys around him. I get the feeling he's very well liked within the team. And he tries hard all the time as well. And I would say as well, he didn't do a lot of defending, but the defending he has done this season has got better than it was last season. And he's really kind of he's really adapted to Ange Ball, along with him and Papa Matasar. I think are two great talents, which obviously someone like Ange Postecoglou has made much better. I mean, I'm really happy to see Porro, and I think Porro could play further forward as well. I think he could play obviously in the Kulu. If Kulu came inside like he did again at the start of yesterday, I could see Pedro Porro. If we had our first choice left back available, our first choice defense available, and Porro was up front, you could see Emerson Royale fitting in to that inside right, just like he did at Brentford and he scored. I could see Porro playing further forward as well as an option, but we aren't going to do that at the minute because of the injury problems we've got. But yeah, Porro's really come on this season. Really come on.
Yeah, it's Kerry says there that he was playing more centrally because of how we had to rearrange the midfield. He was given a chance whilst we had Hill and Johnson out wide. And I think with Hill as well, like he was hugging the touchline. I think that's what Ange wants as well from his wide players, is to stay out wide and hug that touchline and show for it. And so yeah, of the two, certainly Hill was a lot busier than Johnson was, but he's young. We'll give him that, and he'll come good. So Becky, that's 3 defeats in a row, with Manchester City away next. Yeah. Do you think that Ange will go with the same tactic? Obviously, we'll have Basuma back. That's the key plus for going away to the Etihad. Yeah. But do you think you'll carry on with the no centre backs, or do you think we'll bring Dyer in, bearing in mind the sort of aerial prowess of Haaland?
It's a tricky one. Really is tricky. And if maybe he didn't play Dyer last week, was in case he's worried he would get injured. And if it is for that reason, then yeah, we've all seen the frozen images of Romero taking out Haaland in the home game when Kane scored his 267th goal. But without Romero to do that, we need somebody physical just to kind of, keep him out of the game, really, because there are ways of keeping Haaland out of the game, but it needs a physical presence. So if Ange has done that, the thing is, like we said about the lineup on Sunday, you can't work out who it is. If he's got some other ideas, then great. But yeah, I think in terms of the hype and the lack of physicality that we had from the Wolves game, that's what's worrying me slightly. Kerry's just put it there. Might be a big drinking session coming up. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame for me because it's only half an hour for me, but there's a train strike and I really don't want to drive. I normally drive and I really don't want to drive because I think it's going to be one of the games. Drive. Yeah, well, we are actually trying to sort that out because I think it's going to be one of those games where we just need to almost not remember a lot of it, if that makes sense, because I do think, you just said then about Porro. if it is Dyer in the middle and he puts Royal further out, that Doku fella, and then even Grealish and Foden we're not very good against them often at home. I know we had that great game when Kane scored, and we've had Champions League games there, but usually we don't get much from their place.
Well, no one
it's
does.
Better when we play at home. No, exactly. So you can have like quite low expectations, but I think with the injuries as well, it makes it a lot harder. For me, it's kind of almost like, if we get anything, great, but I'm not expecting us. It's more of the West Ham game. As Jack said to me the week he's learning, he went, West Ham's going to be really hard because they always raise their game against us. Yes, they do, Jack. Well done, you're learning. And then Newcastle, I thought they would struggle against Chelsea because of all the injuries they've got, and they've managed to absolutely batter them. So Newcastle isn't going to be easy either. So yeah, it's a tricky sort of festive period coming up until we get to Everton on the day before Christmas Eve. Oh, we've got Forest in between as well, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, Paul, let's assume that, well, maybe not assume that we'll lose to City, but Saturday was their first draw at home.
They do concede. The one benefit is, I said this to Dave when we was watching the Liverpool game, is City do concede, but I don't think we've got enough to outscore them. Andrew's got to do a lot this week, I think, in terms of morale as well and confidence, and making, like you said about Porro, sometimes makes defensive mistakes, but he's said a lot about how he wants to keep going, and he believes that he's been given the idea that he can keep trying things and keep going and that sort of thing. And hopefully that is what drives him as well, because it goes to like 2-0, 3-0, it could be carnage, and then heads will drop, and it's that side of it, which is what I'm sort of saying. It's almost like a free pass. We don't want it to kind of completely derail the rest of it, but it will. If it's a defeat, it's 4 in a row. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot, Paul. And the like Becky says, where's the win coming from? Is it going to be the West Ham game? Is that where we focus now? Because it gets to a point. Of course, we're not panicking. We're playing great football. The 3 defeats we've had, we were winning all 3 of those games. But there comes a point where someone has to sort of put the foot on the ball and say, right, where are the points going to come from? We need to get back on track.
This is now, as you say, this could be 4 on the spin. We've been leading in 3 of the last 3 games that we've lost, as you said. I'm not worried. I'm concerned, which is a slight difference in levels of extremity, because Ange seems to just want to play one way. Take yesterday, for example. We go up, we score, and then literally from the kickoff, Digne gets released down the side, puts a ball in. Royale's quite underneath it. Davies is not coming around the cover, and they score. This has been happening quite a lot. Okay, that goal's offside, but this has been happening quite a lot over the last couple of seasons. It's been happening under Conte. Definitely happened under Mourinho as well. As that we don't seem to have like many people who are. I don't like using a phrase because an American phrase. Excuse me if you're watching the Americans, but this game management phrase, I don't really like using it. But we do need to like sometimes kind of think, let's hold what we've got here for 10, 15 minutes. But I've got quite a lot again kickback about that game. Like we should go for the second and the third. I can definitely see that. I can definitely see the idea. But if we're gonna especially we've got most of our most important first teamers out, we should not be afraid to basically kind of just kind of try to take the steam out of the game and try to hold what we've got for just a small period of time. That doesn't mean going back to Conte ball or Mourinho ball. It means just to be a little bit more kind of cute, a bit smarter, and just to allow ourselves to kind of hold, catch our breath again, and kind of just to collectively take a breath. Also as a stadium as well as a team. What do I think about City? We beat them twice last season.
No, we lost at home. We lost away to them last season.
Did we lose away to them? I thought we beat them twice. Okay.
We were 2-0 up at half time. Bentancur and Royal scored, I think, or maybe Kulusevski, and then they ran right.
Okay, I thought we beat them twice. Excuse me. I could see Dyer coming back in next week. I could definitely see that happening. Even at the top of the show, I just said he might not. He will feature before he goes, but I can see him coming back here. Him and Davis next week. I think Ange has got to be a bit more pragmatic next week. He has to. There's no point. He's got a bit of a free hit this one. He's got a little bit of like City. You know, they've got, you know, they're in form, kind of like, you know, they're kind of like state sponsored team and etc. But you've still got to go there. You've got to compete, and that'll be 4 on the bounce. It could be 5 and it could be 6 if we lose against Newcastle and City. Project or no project. Injuries or no injuries, this is the Premier League. It's the most most brutal league in the world in terms of football. He's going to come under pressure. It's definitely, if he loses against West Ham, he'll come under pressure. And
the one thing about those games, though, Paul, sorry to interrupt, is we have got Romero back for them. So in terms of Newcastle and West Ham, we have got Romero back, haven't we?
Yeah. That is a little bit of a kind of a little glimmer bit of like glimmer of hope, definitely. We might not, you know, lose as badly, but if we do, because we don't really have much of a replacement for Maddison, I just think that Ange will. I want to say let's be patient, but that doesn't work in this league. It doesn't. Eddie Howe's got injuries, okay, and he hasn't spent a fortune. I see in the comments now that about Newcastle. He hasn't. He's found a way for collectively his players to work when he's got key personnel out. Okay, yes, obviously City when they lost Rodri, they lost 3, or they didn't get 3 results they should have get. Yeah, it happens, but you've got to adapt. You can't just hold it up and say, you know, we've got injuries. You have to compete with what you're given. He has to find a way, and if that means that he has to like tweak it a little bit, kind of tactically, then he has to, because if he carries on losing, I'm sorry, he's going to come under pressure, and we can't just say we should judge him on his like best games, because no team ever has their best players. I mean, De Bruyne is out for months. You know, even City don't have their best players all season. You can't judge a manager just on his best players, because you won't have them for the whole season. That's a fallacy. So I'm being a bit doom and gloom. I don't think we'll win at the weekend. I'll be ecstatic with a draw. We have to beat or perform well against Newcastle, and we have to beat West Ham. That's what I'll end with.
Okay. Becky, well, as Paul said, I mean, this is how we play, mate. You know what I mean? Like there's this. Is there another way? Is there a plan? Is there pragmatism? And that's the key question. As you guys know, I say all the time, I talk quite a lot to Sandro. He's been shadowing De Zerbi, and we spoke last week, and he was saying about with Ange when he said, "Look, this is how we play." He's like, "Well, you have to have different ways to play." Like we had a training session today where De Zerbi was like, "Right, this morning we're going to focus on defending deep." And so he's adaptable. De Zerbi, and he's saying that when he hears Ange say, "We only play one way," that's a worry. Like you do have to adapt to your opponent and maintain your own identity. It's a balance, but you do have to have.
It's like we had it, didn't we, with Conte, when Conte was very rigid about his kind of 5 at the back business, and we were sort of like, there are games when he could change that, and we don't have to depending on who we're playing, teams who play a low block and that sort of thing. And he was like, "No, I haven't got the right players, or the players aren't stepping up," and we were like, "Oh, come on, that's not helpful." So yeah, I think it is important that you're right, but maybe Andrew's going to do it by changing personnel slightly, either enforced or by tweaking it, like we said, about different physicalities. I think, like you said, we've got Basuma coming back. Is Sarr going to be back? So instantly, if we've got Sarr and Basuma back, there's already 2 positives there, isn't there? So again, I know it's injury dependent, but he seemed to think that it was like a late fitness test that Sarr missed. So hopefully Sarr is okay. It's just like we said, going back to the lineups, you know, Dyer and Højbjerg were not playing, and we're like, wow, that's great. That's really attacking. That's really positive. And then Højbjerg plays, you know, 2/3 of the match. So he's not, even he would say he's not being able to see what he wants to see because of things that are, like I keep saying, this bad luck. But like you said, we've got to do something about it now. You can't, not that and uses that as an excuse. But he does need to think about what is going to happen, and at least they've got a week to practice it. You know, they didn't have like Friday and Saturday. They've got a bit longer to work out what it is. But yeah, I think, you know, the pace down the wings and keeping Haaland quiet. There's still a great deal more that's a worry. But like I said, I think I had quite low expectations with Villa, really, until we saw the lineup. And then I was like, oh, actually, this is a little bit more hopeful. I don't really have any expectations at City. As like I said, I think it's moving on to the games after that when, you know, Romero's back. That changes things a little bit. You know, you've got Forest and Everton. We've got Brighton, haven't we? They're not. I'm not saying they're all winnable, but they're slightly less daunting, I think.
Than City away, yeah. Let's get your predictions then, Becky. What do you think the score will be against City?
Well, someone put in the chat about a Sonny hat trick. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
But we could still lose 4-3 and have a Sonny hat trick. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I don't know. I like being at the 4-2. I'm sure it was 4-2 last time. Because remember Bentancur or Royal or somebody up the other end because it was miles away. I do think we'll score. I think if we score first, that's brilliant. But I think it's see us losing 3-1, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Paul, what are you thinking?
I don't think we'll score. I think we'll get beat quite badly. Unfortunately, I think it'll be 3-4-0.
No.
I
think we'll at least score. Like I think the City, like Becky said earlier, that defensively you can get at them. They're not perfect, and they do look a bit going forward as well. Like they're very reliant on Doku, who didn't play that well against Liverpool. So
thinking back to times when we have scored there, it has been Sonny playing a high line, Kane usually passing over the top, or Højbjerg or Bentancur, something like that, and him kind of running on. And all those goals that we can remember of Son scoring against City have always been those type of goals. The difference is this year, the goals that we're majority of scoring are kind of deep to kind of byline, crosses in, and then he's kind of flicking it over the keeper. So it's a very kind of different sort of setup. But, in the past, those kind of high line kind of Sonny running on kind of goals have worked really, really well.
I think down the wings, I watched quite a bit of City. Walker is now 32, I believe, and he hasn't got any slower. The guy is a machine. He's still quick as hell. So we're not going to outrun him down that side. If they got Ake on the other side or a Kanji, then that is something that we could exploit a little bit of pace if Johnson wants to go down and test one of those guys for pace. But it's whether we can get to that byline and cut it back and score those Ange type goals that we, even though we did score at the weekend from a shot from outside the box, deflected or not, but it's unusual for us to shoot outside the box. But yeah, I just their midfield as well. Like Bernardo Silva is playing superbly. He pops up, all over the place. Obviously, Rodri is probably the best in the world at what he does as well. It's just about us getting the ball next week, which I don't see us getting a lot of, to be honest. And maybe Beck's right. Maybe we will try and release something over the top of like their back fours, and ask Sonny to run onto it, or Oscar Johnson to run onto it, because that's the only, or a set piece, obviously a corner or a free kick.
Penalty. Let's have our first penalty of the season.
We were saying that after the game. Yes, actually, we haven't had a penalty this season, so it would be nice to get one of theirs and just see Guardiola kind of spit tax the way he does, and just do that kind of thing with his stupid black roll neck on and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. But no, I think we'll lose quite badly next week, and it's just, I think their midfield was just even with Basuma back and hopefully Papa Matasar, I think they've still got too much for us in the middle of the park. I'm sorry it'd be doom and gloom, but I can just see us getting beat quite badly next week.
Okay. Well, the game on Sunday, was dominated obviously by the sad news of the passing of ex Spurs and England manager and Spurs player Terry Venables. Before my time, obviously as a player, but also as manager, my first manager was as Ardiles. My sort of living memory of him was Euro 96. I was 13, 14 at the time, and that was the first tournament where I was like, wow, this game is amazing. Becky, what are your thoughts or your memories of Venables? Is it England?
It is. My first season was the season that we won the FA Cup. So I've said this before. I followed a bit like Jack with Kane. I followed Lineker's team, and that was obviously the FA Cup. So watching it back and watching the semi-final back and watching the final back and all of that, that's what I remember Terry Venables from the kind of video reels, really. I just remember his smile. I just always remember how happy he was and how kind of, he seemed to just enjoy everything that he was doing. I can't believe he was 80. I was saying to somebody on yesterday that to me he was like 65, and to be 80, I know it is very, very sad, but I just remember that smile. We remember like I said, from watching things back of Euro 96, like when Southgate crosses it or Gaza crosses it Southgate, and he kind of can't quite get on the end of it, and then you see Terry go and I just remember that kind of positivity. I remember the interviews he used to do with Des Lynam, and I just remember that kind of charismatic side of him. And Mickey Hazard said something similar to yesterday, that he was just a, because he's been a pundit and he's been a manager and he's been a player and he's been a businessman, and that's what I remembered, that kind of. But for me, he was Tottenham, and then he kind of galvanized England, and like you said, that tournament in England was Terry Venables, and so many players have come out and said that they gave them the opportunity to play and enjoy themselves, and really, really, really sad, but like fond memories of him.
Paul, because he is sort of recognised as a very good man manager. I think that goes without saying. Everyone that's played under him loved him. Gary Mabbott, who was on the pod last week, says he is the best manager he's ever played under. But it wasn't just the man of management. He was quite an innovator as well. He's transformed Barcelona. He got Barcelona their first league in 11 years, got to the final of the then European Cup, the Champions League now, and set laid foundations. Lost on penalties. Yeah, to Stoya Bucharest, I think it was, and
didn't score any of their penalties, which I thought was quite ironic. Anyway,
he kept that going with England. It's a Spursy Barcelona at the moment. what are your memories of El Tel?
Because I'm a little bit older than both of you, I can remember him with Mark Hughes and Gary Lineker at Barcelona as well. And there's a picture going around at the minute of him and a young Pep Guardiola looking at him. So obviously, he's there's a connection there even up to the present day. He just seemed like a guy that basically was a real student of the game, a little bit like Bobby Robson. He's a little bit like Roy Hodgson as well, dare I say. They never get bored about learning about the game, and I always got that feeling from El Tel. He's obviously and as you say, a very good man manager as well. I haven't read or heard anything on the radio or on the TV about anything bad said about him. I remember him going up to Southgate after he missed a penalty and consoled him and stuff. Yeah, there's loads of iconic moments, isn't there, that stick in your mind. And it's unfortunate that in the same breath we say that it's like, Euro 96, that we should have won that tournament. And obviously being in the UK, being in England and stuff, we should have won that, and that would have been his crowning kind of achievement, I think. But innovator. It was just really, really sad, coming through yesterday just before we all met up, and the news got out that he unfortunately passed away, and but just
great tribute to him in the stadium though, wasn't it? The clapping, and then they sang as well, and that was really nice. And then they got a load of people together, didn't they? They were there before kickoff, and then some of them were talking
at half time as well. Talking to David Howes and talking to Gary Mabbott about him as well, and stuff like this. And all of them just had their own little anecdotes about him and stuff, which was really nice. And this is not a time for us to talk about the issues he had with like sugar and all these things, and Scholar and this kind of thing. So let's not mention that. But it's a shame. It's a real shame, because he was an integral part of my Spurs and national team following when I was growing up.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, everyone at the Cheeseman passes their condolences to Terry Bull's family, and and so guys, I'll be going for over an hour. I think that will do in terms of analysing the game. And anything else to add, Becky?
No, it was great seeing people on Sunday, and yeah, it's just I think there's green shoots, there's positivity. When we get the players back, I tweeted today, imagine we haven't seen it yet. When we have Van der Ven, Romero, Bissouma, Maddison, and Bentancur playing, wowzers. We haven't had that yet. That's something to look forward to. That might be next season. We've only had one transfer window with Ange. Positivity, but yeah, I think although it was disappointing that we've had 3 games where we've scored first and haven't held on, at least it's much more fun to watch. So I'm just like I said, City's a bit sort of like a kind of, we'll jump over that a bit and then look on to kind of the December fixtures a bit more and be a bit more hopeful, and hopefully that's more matches before Maddison and Van der Ven are back, and hopefully Bentancur's not too bad, and like I said, trying to be positive.
Yeah, well, on the that's not what we're going to tie up here, but Paul, on the ankle injury for Maddison, was it a build-up or was there an impact at the Chelsea game? Because it wasn't clear.
I think he's been carrying something for quite a while, Maddison. He's not been moving that fluidly for 90 minutes for quite a while. Chelsea, he got clipped by, I think it was Gallagher. Was early on, and he was limping a bit there, and then he went in for he went through for a through ball, and then the keeper clipped him a little bit, and I think that's just basically enough was enough, really. But I just think it's accumulation of minutes playing at maybe even 80%, and especially the high intensity that we expect in Ange ball, you've really got to be firing on 90-95%. And he clearly wasn't. And it was, imagine trying to drive your car. You say it's got, I don't know, 12, it's a V12, and you lose 8 of those cylinders. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not going to perform as well. And Maddison is the same. It's just, it's just a little bit like we saw with Son last season, trying to play for an injury. And obviously he got to a point where he got clipped. And that was it. But we can't get him back soon. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying to say Ange's got to find a way through these games before these players all come back and we get our first 11, 12, 13 players back that we want. But we need to keep focused on that, because I think it could get a little bit worse over the next 3 or 4 weeks, unfortunately. God, I sound so negative. I'm sorry.
That lovely note, yeah.
Sorry.
All good. Look, we're realists. We're not happy clappers, and we're not doom and gloomers. We're realists, and this is where we are. But like I said, I'm not that concerned right now that because we are playing well. Like, we should have beaten Villa. We if we'd have been a bit smarter, we would have beaten Wolves. Chelsea.
I don't see what the hype is about Villa. Do you guys, Becky? Were you impressed by it? No, I don't get it either. It's like, Emery's turned them around. Well, yeah, they were crap under Stevie G. We know that, but it's just like they're playing just a high line, and they're very, very well drilled. But going forward, I don't really see McGinn is doing what McGinn does, and Douglas Luiz is doing what he's doing. It's just like
I'd imagine the European games that will catch up on them, and then may get injuries as well. Like I can see them being a bit like Brighton last year. People are saying, they're dead certs for top 4, top 5. I think them Brighton and the European fixtures will start to kind of catch up on them, and but then Villa have got money. They can buy reinforcements in January. That's the thing, is they're kind of, now they've got their owner. That's something that they didn't used to do. And I just think weirdly about us having injuries now is that hopefully there isn't any more. We'll have that when we aren't playing in Europe in February and March, and have that to kind of pull through when others are having it the other way around, if that makes sense. But none of the games that we've lost we've been outplayed by. We just haven't really killed teams off. So I can't genuinely, not being too positive, I can't really think of a really, really great team that we've played yet. Maybe City will be the first one.
I mean, it literally somebody times their run half a second, or somebody holds their run for half a second yesterday, and we're 2 or 3-0 up. You know, like I thought the doggy chance was probably the most clear cut. Yes, he dropped. I thought he could have done a lot better than that, and it would have been 2 or 3 up, and then we'd have been 1 point off. Would have been like 1 point off the top, or 2 points off the top, and joint second or third with goal difference. Yeah, it is. This is me of last season at green shoots, but I am clutching here. But there are fine margins here. So we're playing some good football. We are playing some good football, and that's really nice, especially when we all pay what we pay to go and see football. So that's a positive as well. I do come out of Seven Sisters Tube, and I'm walking up the high street, and I get my bottle of water and I'd mince and do what I do, and then I'm really looking forward to getting to the stadium and seeing what Angie's got us playing, which is a marked difference to what it's been for the last 2.5 seasons, which is great.
Yeah, and you can see what they're trying to do. You can see what it is that they're trying to do, which is something, isn't it? There seems to be a plan.
There you go. That's positive. Well done, Paul. Got there in the end. Well done.
Yeah, and this is his first season as well. He always says, "Judge me on the second season, mate." So, and it's a 4-year contract as well. So, assuming he honours it, we good times ahead.
And on that
note, Becky, thank you for joining.
Okay, thanks for having me. It's great chatting again. Yeah, let's hope that there's some positivity next Monday as well.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll be picking apart the City likely defeat, but yeah, it will be positive. Paul,
no more injuries. If we have a game, I'll take a defeat if there's no more injuries. That's that's the compromise, please.
Fair enough. Paul, change the joining, man.
No drama, mate. Always good to talk to you, and lovely to see you yesterday back. I know we caught up. It was nice, but yeah, it's always nice to have an opportunity like this platform to have a chat with you guys. So, cheers, man. Thanks a lot.
76 people watching. Also, please do give us a like if you've liked what you've seen, and keep the faith. The guys will be back definitely on Friday with a preview of the City game. I'm not sure, there may be a show on Wednesday as well. That's a bit up in the air, but keep the faith. It's Ange Ball. It's always going to be up and down, but we're playing good football. We're enjoying it. So come on, up the Spurs. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.